So we're going to go ahead and get started. So what we have now is the EXP Champions Program. And with the Champions Program, what the intention is for us to be able to nominate folks who are subject matter experts in topics that may not be covered by one EXP affinity group. So our first one was sustainability. It came about because we were able to locate such fine talent like Joan and Alex who have passion about this topic. And so we have this chat today is to introduce you guys to them and to see if we can get a little bit more understanding about what they want to bring to the table and how you can get involved. So the real call to action here is to join the EXP Climate Action Network. So our champions are also tasked with running a workplace group. And in that workplace group, they're going to share ideas and events and calls to action and all that sort of great content stuff. So the sustainability champions have started a workplace group called EXP Climate Action, #EXPCan. And we would encourage everybody to go check it out and go join. The mission and vision statement is there in a pin. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce these guys. So Joan Gregerson here is an agent with us. And Joan, I'll give you the mic a little bit to give a little bit of your background to the folks here.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think I'll also give you some entertainment because I really can't figure out moving around here. So you can watch me do that. But I'm really happy to be here and to have this opportunity. I think Alex and I have both had a similar experience where we were at other places and really wanted to start something or be a part of something and didn't get any encouragement. So I just want to start by thanking Cody when we first reached out to him that he's like, yeah, we've been waiting for someone to take this on. So we're excited to be launching this EXP Climate Action Network. As far as for me, I am an agent here in Denver, Colorado, but my background is I started as doing building energy engineering. So home energy modeling, creating home energy rating systems. And then I went on to do community organizing, started a couple environmental nonprofits. I wrote a book called Climate Action Challenge and started and hosted the 2020 and 2021 International Climate Action Challenge. In 2021, we reached 75 teams from 28 countries that planted 150,000 trees and did all kinds of other cool stuff. So I'm super excited. I bring that combination of all this stuff to the table here and see that EXP is really a place where we can change the future of the planet because of our passion and our ideas, and when we work together we can make things happen. So that's a little bit about me.
That's brilliant. Alex, I'll give you the floor a little bit. Why don't you tell us about you?
Thanks, Cody. First of all, I wanted to echo my appreciation, as Joan mentioned, like being able to work at a company that values sustainability is monumental to me in my career that I want to pursue. So having the opportunity to do something like this is truly amazing. My background, I've had a number of different career changes, but my passion in sustainability really started when I watched The Inconvenient Truth by Vice President Al Gore. And after he had put out that documentary, that was in 2007, I've been very passionate about sustainability and tackling climate change and really dedicating my efforts in whatever I do to helping solve the issue. Vice President Al Gore, former Vice President Al Gore, he also has what's called the Climate Reality Project, and through there the Climate Reality Leadership Corps. And so I've been through that training, and that's training that he goes around the world and provides training to everyone to kind of educate themselves on what's going on within the world in regards to climate, and also solutions that are being developed. And so it's a constantly evolving program that he's going through. So that's one thing about my background. Another thing is I went to business school, so I have my BBA in marketing, but with a focus in sustainability. So that was part of my BBA program. And for my honors thesis, I actually did. It's got a long name, but it's the Okanagan. I'm in Central Okanagan, which is in British Columbia, Canada. So it was called the Central Okanagan Air Quality and Idling Attitudinal Study. And so that was my honors thesis, which was 6 years ago. And just that was last Monday that they had the City of Kelowna Council has actually gone ahead and approved an anti-idling bylaw in Kelowna. So that was very monumental for me in having the research that I conducted with my honors thesis to be used in conjunction with all the other research that the municipality did to push this forward within the community. So it was a very, very proud moment for myself. And now we're here. Now we're trying to evolve sustainability within EXP, both for staff and for agents, because we want to try to incorporate various aspects of sustainability within EXP. I mean, it's a value of EXP, and I think that's a great foundation that has been laid out for us, but I feel like we can go a lot further, and we want to get everyone involved in that and really develop something here at EXP. Yeah, sorry, I feel like it took a lot of time when I did that.
That was a great introduction, and as always, what you guys will gather from Alex is after listening to him, I feel smarter.
Thanks, Cody.
We love Alex. We love Alex. So I hinted at our mission and vision. The vision here is it's a simple sentence: to propel EXP Realty to become the leading real estate company in sustainability and climate action globally. Big statement. But my next question is going to be for Joan. We'll start with you. What motivates you to drive these efforts forward? We've already seen it. Both of you have a great passion for this, but what's your motivator to really make this happen?
Well, as for me, so I'm 61 years old, and I could never have imagined that we would get to this point and not have been prioritizing the environment. Like when I was 10 years old, I saw the first people land on the moon, and I got that feeling. And my dad was an engineer. I just got that feeling that humans could do whatever they want and solve whatever they want. And I grew up in Colorado, just outside playing in the mountains and the rivers and climbing trees. And so the nature has just always been a part of me. But what I noticed was that through my jobs, like even though I went into engineering to specifically be part of the solution, that a lot of times things happen where people take their eye off of that and have a lot of reasons or excuses not to protect the planet. We're going to do it later. Well, I can tell you, nobody else is going to do it later. It's us that is going to do it now. So I think that's a good place to stop for me.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. That sort of mirrors what my idea for this is who is going to do this if we don't do it? The answer is nobody, right? I think that's a good statement that we apply to a lot of things, but certainly to the environment. What about you, Alex? What motivates you to drive these efforts forward?
Being raised in the generation that I'm part of, I was raised in and taught to implement conservation wherever possible, and so that kind of really started me off. And then, as that knowledge base grew about the environment and what was going on, and I realized that there are some gaps in what we could be doing to make things a whole lot better. And like I said, as that knowledge base grows, you realize that we're all in this together, and it's not just us as humans, but it's also the other species that are interwoven within the biosphere of the planet. And so, if a disruption happens to that very intricate food web, well, we're actually putting ourselves at danger. And I think it's very important that we become stewards of all life on this planet, and to be very responsible with what we do on this planet, and make as minimal impact to the planet and the systems as possible, so that we can live as a species sustainably into the future, environmentally, socially, economically. And that's how I define sustainability. Those three pillars, they all have to exist. I explained this to Cody when we first met, my vision of sustainability. And if you look up like an image of sustainability on the internet, you might find a Venn diagram with three overlapping circles, one being environment, one being social, and one being economic. But I have a different image in my mind, and that is it's a circle within a circle within a circle. So we have the largest circle is the environment, and everything exists within that environment, including society, which is the next circle within that circle. And within that societal circle, we have our economy. And so this image represents that one cannot exist without the other, whereas the Venn diagram, it gives you that illusion that society or an economy can exist outside of an environment, but that's not true, because everything depends on the environment that we live in. So I guess that's my motivation.
That's brilliant. So the next question I want to ask for both of you is, in what ways can learning more about climate action improve an agent's business? So when we're talking about this as a real estate company, how can learning about climate stuff really improve your book of business? What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
I'll jump in if that's okay. So, I think that one of the things that people don't realize is, we've kind of been conditioned that you don't bring up climate change, you don't bring up the environment in social, like anywhere really, unless you're like at home and commiserating. But the thing is that according to the Yale program on climate change communications, so if you're ever looking for this data, Yale Climate Communications, they do quarterly polls, but in their most recent one, over 70% of Americans believe that climate change is happening, and over 70% believe that climate change will harm future generations. So that means that 70% of our clients are concerned about it. 70% of the vendors that we work with, people that are doing painting or carpet, 70% of the builders, 70% of our home sellers, 70% of the staff at EXP, and 70% of the agents that want to attract. So I think that, and also younger home buyers are prioritizing sustainability. They want a net zero energy home. They don't want gas appliances. And so if we're running the same track as before, like granite countertops and big gas cook stoves, we're out of touch with what this whole next realm of home buyers are interested in. So if we can be in front of that, then we can differentiate ourselves both for our clients and then also for agent attraction.
That's brilliant. And, I would add to this. This is a conversation that Joan and I had when we first started talking about all this stuff is, knowing about the rebates and sort of that sort of thing where you are selling homes. In the home where I live in Danville, Illinois, we have a power company called Ameren, and they were willing to come out and do an energy audit of my home for free. And in order to bring our house up to G standards, they were willing to, at no cost to me, replace my furnace and all the insulation in my house, including my attic, about a $10,000 job that I got for free, because my house wasn't energy efficient. I know that Ameren in Danville, Illinois isn't the only power company, but what value could that have brought when I was working with my real estate agent to purchase this house? I saw that I have appliances and, maybe older insulation, that sort of thing. If they could have said to me, oh, by the way, there's a program, they may be willing to make you more efficient and save you a lot of money. That would have helped me. Oh, geez, am I cutting out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to the next question then.
I'm just going to rephrase in case anybody missed any of that. Just that idea that you went through a process where it's like, hey, by the way, there's $10,000 worth of upgrades that could be done to your house, and had your realtor been like, not only can you get this house, but I can also help you figure out a way to be a more responsible citizen by using less, and you're going to save a lot of money. Like, yeah, that's a huge benefit, and something that we could easily do if we kind of take on that mindset.
Exactly.
I'd also like to add something as well, Cody, before we move on. I have heard, like in extreme cases, I've heard this out of Australia, that in these fire-prone areas or heat-prone areas, it's actually becoming more difficult to get home insurance for those kind of events as well. So it's not only important for a competitive advantage, so that you can put yourself out there in regards to sustainable home construction and all that in front of other agents, but also being aware of what limitations that might exist and what you need to be transparent about with your potential buyers moving forward as things progress. That's
great. I want to touch on sort of the hot topic here. Is that a lot of people are seeing climate as a dirty word, right? They see it as politicized. So for those who don't see the value in, unquote, going green, or who view climate change as a politicized issue that they don't really want to be involved with, what do you say to those folks?
Well, one of the things, I did the same training that Alex mentioned, that climate reality leaders, and in there and some other places, one of the proven ways to talk about climate is to ask people, what have they personally seen during their lifetime? Have things changed between their parents' lifetime, their lifetime? For me in particular, when I was a kid, we used to skate on City Park and Washington Park lakes. Like, you would die if you tried doing that now. It just doesn't get that cold. And so that's one of the ways to do it, is to bring it to a personal, to let people express in their own life experience what they've seen changing, and ask them to talk about it, is one of the strategies that we can take. It doesn't start with an argument. It just asks people, have you noticed anything changing in your lifetime? I just did a video. I have a YouTube channel, Denver Green Living. I just did a video, the number of hot days in Denver. When I was 10 years old, there was 5 days above 95 degrees, and that has, I think it's now like 20 days above 95 now. And we're setting records. So the idea that not only has it changed from when we were kids or when your parents were kids, that the years now could be the coolest years going forward. So helping people talk about their own experience is one way to take it out of a political realm and let them reflect on it in their own life experience. I think Alex has some other perspectives to share.
I'm really glad that you actually mentioned that. I had forgotten about that part of the Climate Reality Leadership Corps training, and that bringing that personal story into it. It really does kind of like, instead of like face-to-face argument, it's like you're focusing on the your personal experiences and almost like painting the problem as like not a you versus me issue. It's more of a, this is an issue over here and we should work together and work on it. My personal story, I grew up in a mountain town, ski town, and it was the decrease in snowpack for me. So later opening seasons, earlier closing of the mountain, that was a huge impact for me that I realized, and I almost felt like as if there was a seasonal shift happening when I was younger. I was like, what's going on here? To elaborate on this question, like I mentioned before, like on a heating planet impacts all of its inhabitants, the whole biosphere, all flora, fauna, fungi, all life on this planet. And we exist in a global society and a global economy. And so even if your personal local climate isn't being changed, like it isn't changing as fast as others, it will experience societal and economic impacts because we live in this global economy. So it'll also experience other things as well that comes part and parcel with those societal and economic impacts in other regions. Concept like eco-anxiety, climate migration, gentrification. These concepts are very real and they're happening already. Everything can be debated in politics. I have no problem with politics. I think it's great. It's a meeting of the minds. We all bring our differing perspectives to the table to talk about issues to moving forward. So as awareness and education continues to grow and the number of individuals impacted by changes in climate increases, we will witness a shift in how the topic is being debated. So it's going to shift away from being debated like the gravity or the severity of the situation to now debating things of the nature of like, what's the correct course of action to pursue? We're all working together, but how do we do it? We all know that this is a problem. How do we take action in resolving it? And I think we're seeing that shift going on right now. Whereas before it was, is this actually happening? And over the past, like since the 1980s and before even, there was the debate of, is it actually happening? Or what's the severity of it? But now we're like, yeah, it's happening. And how can we mitigate climate change, which is like preventing it from happening, and then also how can we adapt to climate change? What things can we do in our local climate that's going to enable us to adapt to the changes in our local climate? So that's what I would explain to anyone that doesn't necessarily, I don't want to say that they don't believe in it, but maybe it's just like they just don't know that certain concepts exist, or they need to make the connections between things. I think everyone has the capacity to understand it, but they just don't have the perspective in order to make adequate decisions on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just adding to what you're saying, Alex, like earlier, like last week, there was a day when 100 million people in the U.S. were under an extreme heat warning. So that's like a third of the population on one day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of these things that were more abstract, wildfires and drought, flooding, all these different extreme events. And extreme heat is the most likely event for most people to experience and the most deadly in general. So, yeah, I think people are starting to see it in their own lives.
Yeah, if I could paint a picture, like we're actually in a heat warning right now, and we were last year as well in British Columbia. We had the heat dome. You may have heard about that. So first came the heat, then came the fires, and then because all the vegetation was dead and all the leaves had fallen down, then came the rains and the flooding. And so there were massive floods in BC and wiped out many of our major highways. That was last year.
Wow. Yeah, just thinking about last week, we saw the news story about the hottest temperatures ever in the UK, and something like airplane or air tarmacs were melting or something like that. Yeah, a lot. So as we move forward, you guys bring us content. What are you going to do to make some of these heavy topics more fun and engaging to get people in the door?
Alex, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. These concepts are very heavy. They're big. It might feel like, hey, I'm an individual. What can I possibly do? But take comfort in knowing that we're all in this together, and this is a challenge that each of us faces together, and know that when we work together, we can actually accomplish great things. Through the Climate Reality Leadership Project or Corps, as well as some other ones that I've been part of, such as We Don't Have Time, and others like the Drawdown Project. There are solutions that already exist today, and one of the biggest challenges, especially in this like oversaturated social media society that we live in today, the hardest challenge is actually raising awareness of those, educating people on that we do have solutions. And so I think it's our goal to connect with industry leaders and bring forward their knowledge and their experience from the front lines of innovation and research, so that we can equip our agents, our staff, and our leaders with the tools that they and the know-how to meet the challenges and the opportunities of tomorrow, because there are opportunities within this.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I think the things, when we're talking about things like climate change, pollution, habitat loss, environmental racism, like all those things are heavy. But the thing is that people are actually taking action and doing some super cool things. And so one of the things that I learned, this is what changed for me from being an engineer to becoming a community organizer running nonprofits, is that storytelling is what gets people. We can give you information all day, but like if you see, for example, like for weight loss, somebody can tell you should exercise and eat right. But if you see before and after pictures of someone, you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How did you do that? Well, it's going to be the same thing your doctor told you, but it's that storytelling. The personal transformations is that what inspires people to take action. And so that's what we're going to be sharing. And one of the groups we're so excited about is that EXP has a group that is called Latitude, which you might know about. Neil Collins has a podcast called Regenerative Real Estate, and their agents are called Change Agents. And that's one of the examples of the groups that we're going to be focusing on. They take this just beautiful holistic approach, and we're going to be able to learn so much for people who have already been going forward. So we stay away from, we don't spend a lot of time talking about climate change. We'd rather talk about climate action. And so just in general, we're focused on action and storytelling and excitement and creativity, and giving that vibe, I think is making it a fun, beautiful work to be involved in is kind of our idea.
That's great. I love that. So talking about content that you guys want to bring to us, what kinds of content can we look forward to from you?
Well,
Joan, do you want to take off?
I was going to say, I'll dive right in. So one of the things is we do have a form that we put up for volunteers to jump in and help us. So, what we think this is kind of a container for a place for people to come collaborate. So we don't know what do you want to talk about, but some of the things that we thought of is, why the basics. Some people want the basics of why is this important, but also like how to grow your business through the sustainability focus, the regenerative real estate, green certification programs for agents, for homes. Where EXP has these big conferences. What are ways that we could reduce or offset carbon? What are some of the corporate governance around sustainability, goal setting, and reporting? What are some of these changing homebuyer trends? And Alex, what else did I miss?
I think you're doing great, to be honest. Other things I was thinking of was for content that we provide, and something that's dear to my heart and my thinking is that I'd like to provide the educational resources for people to tap into themselves. So whether it's research or industry trends or industry portals or government incentives, those are some things that I would like to put together, some kind of a database that staff, agents, leaders can tap into to learn more about what's out there. And hopefully we can really build a strong sustainability culture within EXP Realty, because I would really like to see not only as a value of sustainability, but like interweaving the thread of sustainability into the culture of EXP Realty, the tapestry that makes EXP Realty what it is. And that's the idea that's in my mind. That's the vision that I want to pursue. I want to really get people talking about it, realize that, hey, this is a big issue. These are big issues, but we can work together to do what we can as an organization to lessen but also lessen the impact of others and educate others in the matter too. Because the real estate industry is massive. And if we have the opportunity to become the world's #1 sustainability focused real estate organization, I think that would be I think that's a great opportunity for us, and we can really pursue that, especially as a work from home or a no office based real estate agency. I think that we're perfectly aligned for that.
That's great.
And I think, this, there is a lot to be said for the amount of carbon that's already being offset because of this model of not having to have central offices and people commuting. I think EXP is the one company that could really do this because of that rebel spirit. There's not these kind of constraints of this is how we've always done it. So I'm really hopeful because, EXP sustainability is one of the 8 core principles, like that's already in the blueprint, but taking that to the next level, let's get a sustainability czar and a sustainability plan and some reporting of what things we're already doing and an assessment of what all we could do. And let's get at it.
I love that. I absolutely love metrics and data and what can we do that we're proving that we did it. I love all of that.
Yes.
So, to the folks sitting around the campfire now, I think you guys have a pretty good idea now of why Joan and Alex were selected for these roles, right?
Well, we really appreciate it, Cody. Both you and Janae have been amazing in helping us get this going. I think Joan and I are great supplemental counterparts. I'm very analytical and Joan's very outgoing and personal, so I'm really looking forward to our partnership. What do you think, Joan? Should I put the link in the chat for our forum?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Definitely. And, the thing is, I was doing some calculations. So we have 80,000 agents and another, I forget the number of staff. Is it like 4,000? I don't know. Let's just say we have 85,000 people. So
We have
I think
over
500
1,600 staff.
How
Almost
much is there?
1,700.
1,700? Okay, let's just say
Almost,
80,000 people. So out of 80,000 people, I think we could have 500 people active in this climate action network, like doing things. You know, somebody's looking at conferences and like, how can we green up that whole experience? And someone else is looking at volunteering and our volunteer days and how can we be more engaged in the community. You know, and then, you know, we have green building certifications and green technologies and strategic partners. And like, it could just really be something that a lot of people could dive in to the area that you're passionate about. So I think Alex dropping that, or you did, into the chat.
I did. I put it in there twice. I should have typed something out first. That's why I put it in there twice.
No, that's great. So the form is there that you can, you know, just let us know what you're interested in. And if you lose track of that form, then just search for EXP Can and join our workplace group. And yeah, we're super excited to get going with this. And really, you know, I left the previous company I was with because on one day at the end of December, which is obviously not the fire season in Colorado, we had 1,000 homes burned in a day, the Marshall Fire, you may have heard of.
Oh my.
And I went to our brokerage leadership and said, what are we going to say about climate change? And they said, we're not going to say anything about it because it's not our area of expertise. And so I'm so thankful, I think Alex too, that to be in a place that's like, hey, if this is something you guys are passionate about and you can help us see how this fits in the business model and in our, you know, just our culture, then go for it. So I just want to put that out there. If you're one of those people too, we want you to go for it and join us, and let's do some cool stuff together.
Yeah, and you know, I think use the EXP Can workplace group as a social space to share stuff that you see happening with climate in the world. You know, I think this is the community that you've been looking for to share stuff like that and to talk about topics like this and, you know, discussion. I think that, you know, there's a lot of potential for us there. Like Joan said, all it takes is 500 people. We've got some one EXP affinity groups with 1,000 members, 2,000 members, 8,000 members. I easily think that we have at least 500 people that give a damn about the climate at this company.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should be like 56,000 based on that 70% number.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that many that actually care. And so then if there are some of us who are like, well, let's make it easier for those people to have those conversations like, hey, well, when we check the local utility and see if they have incentives to improve your house, I'll make that call, or you could. You know, that's like a huge value add and something really fun and exciting that we could be letting people know about and changing that culture.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, that's even for folks that can't make the time to volunteer necessarily, being part of the conversations on EXP Can, that's also meaningful. You know, it tells us that you're thinking about the environment, and that's really the point here, right? That we want people to care about the environment, to care about climate change. Since we've got a little bit of extra time here, I would love to circle back to something that I think is interesting and something that I think not a lot of people know about that was mentioned briefly. Do either one of you want to talk a little bit about environmental racism? What is that? What is that? How does it impact folks? What does it mean?
I could comment on that one.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. So environmental racism, it stems from systemic racism, and it's the whole premise that some races were put into certain areas that are less, I guess, attractive or situated near manufacturing or industry districts or something of this nature because it was affordable and it was undesirable by like the white community, for example. So it's tied very closely to systemic racism and health issues as well. And there's a whole bunch of issues that arise from it too, because those folks that live in those areas, they might not have access to proper education or proper health care. And so when we're talking about environmental racism, I think of sustainability in the holistic view of it. That's my personal take on it, is like it's social, it's economics, and it's environmental all together. So how to back that nut? I mean, I think it's being looked at severely right now. And it needs to be up front and center because we're all in this together. Every single one of us are in this together. And so if we don't tackle our social issues that we have and our economic issues that we have, like I painted that picture before, a circle within another circle, if we don't fix the issues that exist within each of those, economic and social, then we don't have that potential to combat the climate crisis that we're in. Joan, did you want to mention?
Yeah, and then if we can, Cody, if we can turn it on for Janae, because she had something to add. I was just going to say that just from the climate, like carbon emissions, if you look at that, you'll see that the U.S. historically has produced more carbon emissions than any other country. Right now, China produces more than we do on an annual basis, but historically, we're the U.S. has contributed more than any other country. And yet, the island nations and much of Africa, global south, have produced very little, and yet they're the ones that are feeling the most severe impact. So that's another example of what the people that are kind of creating the issue and the people that are experiencing it are different. And so that is, I think, a moral obligation that we have to figure out how we can do things better.
That's a really good point. And, I saw a news story recently about environmental racism. I believe it was on last week's night with John Oliver, but they were showing how, if you think about the housing that's available near a factory, near either a factory that's still in operation or those parts of towns in big cities where old dilapidated factory buildings are. The people who live in those areas are almost completely people from minorities, and it's very, very low income housing, but the quality of air, the quality of water, the quality of soil in those areas is just abysmal. Like, no one should be living here. They showed off an area where they have to put signs up that you shouldn't allow your kids to play in the grass because the soil. But they sold those houses, right? So I think that's where we as real estate professionals and those in our agent community have to be aware that those areas exist, and do what we can to combat environmental racism wherever we see it, particularly when it comes to those areas that may not be safe.
I think that's what Janae was talking about in the chat there too.
Exactly.
Do you want to speak on that a little more?
Janae?
I feel really bad. I don't want to take up the space, but I was just discussing kind of how environmental racism has obviously a lot of effects on individuals of all kinds. But speaking personally and just from my experience and my knowledge, I know the effects that it can have on African American and then also internationally African communities. I spoke a little bit briefly in the comments about the effects it has on Nigeria, which I learned from my partner, but then just also thinking about the continent of Africa holistically. I know that in parts of northern African countries, toxic waste is actually $1 billion industry. And it's because of the fact that they dump waste from Europe to parts or countries in this area. And unfortunately, the countries in this area don't have the technical means to recycle the waste. Mm-hmm. So all it results in is environmental harm and like serious problems for the citizens. Yeah. And there are people who are shipping this waste are aware of this, and they continuously are purposely doing this because of the fact that it results in revenue, and it's a lucrative business for them to be able to do so. So, yeah.
Well, we've got a little time left. I would love to know if anybody here has any questions for Alex or Joan or me or Janae or anybody. Anybody have anything they want to chat about?
Hey guys, it's Mary. I want to throw one out there that this kind of popped in my head on.
Sure.
We have an area in Buffalo that's a reputed cancer cluster. The EPA's come in, the city's come in and said, no, it's a nothing burger, but the numbers are there. And I know for a fact because I grew up in the area. There's definitely an environmental issue in that. How would you propose that we as agents address that, or is that kind of a stay in your lane and shut up?
Hey, Mary, this is Joan. I was going to say that in my previous life, like ending last December, that's what I was coaching people on, was how to create community organizations. And I have a book about that. And so I would love to give you a copy of the book and chat with you about it. The book's called Climate Action Challenge, a proven plan for launching your eco initiative in 90 days. But it's basically a lot of best practices for how to, to be an effective community organizing group. And there's lots of stories in there and ideas like getting 100 ideal partners. And it's based on me wasting decades doing stupid stuff, and then kind of figuring this out along the way. And I don't want anybody else to do that approach, but anybody that's interested in it is the right person to work on it. And there's also like the NAR placemaking grants, but I would love to chat with you offline to see if there's some other things that we could brainstorm about.
I'd be thrilled to. I know several people that I grew up with between the ages of 30 and 40 all passed away from stupid, bizarre forms of cancer. There's no way that there's nothing happening in that area. Something's up there.
I'm so sorry. I was working on a pollinator group, and we were talking about Roundup, and they kept saying it's not an issue, it's not an issue, it's not an issue, and finally it's like, well, actually it is.
Yeah,
but, to prove that stuff is difficult, but it's definitely like it's healing to have a community working on it, regardless of exactly when and where, what the results are. But yeah, I'd love to speak with you about that.
I'd be thrilled to.
Thank you.
And
Mary, I want to make
of it.
I want to touch on something that you said too, Mary, about is this something that I should sit down and shut up about? You know how I feel about this, right?
Well, you know how I feel, so you know how hard it is for me to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. And I am a big encourager of everybody here, regardless of how much space you feel like you're taking up out of a room or how much of the air that you think belongs to everybody that you're breathing. If you see something wrong, never shut up about it.
Agreed. 100%.
And I also would say, something that is lacking with a lot of the stuff we're talking about with the environmental racism and the areas where it may not be safe for someone to live is something that isn't done today, period, for the people moving into these dangerous areas is them being told the truth about what they're moving into. These people are moving into these areas and then being surprised by the fact that their kid develops leukemia because they played outside. Right.
This particular area, Cody, is also, and I'm sure you guys heard about the Buffalo food deserts and where the shooting happened. It's all in that same particular mile or two of town.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know
just,
exactly where it's
I don't want to be accused of steering or redlining. I mean, I grew up in the neighborhood. I love the neighborhood. And thankfully, even with my poor health habits, I haven't gotten sick, but I know plenty of people who have.
Right. And, I would encourage you have a good human heart and you know what to do with it. If you see an area that is dangerous, at very least, you have to make the person buying into that area aware of the potential dangers that come with buying this property at a lower cost. Even if it's not something that's legally required of you to do, you know that it's the right thing to do so that somebody isn't blindsided by something horrible coming from this environment.
Well, I don't care about what's legally required. I just care about what's not going to come back and bite me in the ass as far as redlining or steering or any of that crap.
Right. Yep. And, part of this really, it does tie into the issue that we have with districting and the way that, the district lines are drawn nowadays. It's a very political hot.
Don't even get me started there.
Drawn around these same areas that are food deserts and are industrial areas with bad soil and all this kind of thing. That it's all tied together. It's intersectionality in the first way.
And no, I appreciate you guys. Any help, Joan? I Googled you because I jumped in the class late. Anything you guys can do to assist, and I'm certainly, I'm not an idiot. Climate change is happening. It's here. It's real. It's been 90 degrees in Buffalo for 2 weeks, and I stink because I don't have air conditioning because I live in Buffalo.
But this is what we're talking about, though, cultural transformation. And this is something I learned from wellness coaching. So I was doing engineering, and then when I started doing wellness coaching, I realized it's about transformation, it's about coaching, it's about goal setting, creativity, and this cultural transformation. So that's what I think makes it fun. It's people like you come up with ideas, and it's let's see what we can do.
No, I appreciate you guys. I'm glad I stumbled into this class, even though, Cody, it wasn't on the regular calendar where it should be.
That's okay. We're going to have more events because you guys are going to join us and plan them.
Well, you got to make Cody get it on the big calendar, not the little side note calendars.
This is
I'm going to work on that forever, Cody. You know that.
I know you are. And one of these days I'm going to get it right. Janae's going to help me. I also, realize that I'm grateful that all of you found your way there, but I lost the fact that you have to click go to campus areas or campus locations for this campsite. I should have known better than to just tell people to come to the forest campsite, but it's all a learning process. That's what we're here for, right? We learn as we go. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about, or any questions that you have for Joan or Alex?
One thing I wanted to throw out too is if you hear of somebody doing something cool, then please invite them to join the group and suggest that be a topic for one of our trainings, because we want to be able to tell these stories of what people are doing. So yes, please bring your ideas in, and anybody that you know of.
For sure, yeah. And I know it can sound like a lot. It can sound heavy for us to say to you, hey, help us come up with what our training schedule is going to look like. But legitimately what we're asking, guys, is what do you want to know? Right? And then we can develop content to teach you what it is that you want to know, right? I think between Joan and Alex, there is no topic that they can't figure out an answer to and be able to teach you about it. I think, we've got competent folks that have this in their hands here.
I think before we sign off here, I did want to talk about a very important topic to my heart, and that is eco-anxiety. And that is the fear or the impending doom of what's going on in the world. And the more you learn about what's happening, the more disheartening you might become. And also when there's like this debate about if it's real or not. I know many of us here know that it is full on real and is here and is going to get worse. So I wanted to talk about eco-anxiety, open up the floor to everyone here. But before I do, I just wanted to mention that I think we could build a real support network here for mental health as it revolves around eco-anxiety. But also know that the best thing that you can do to combat eco-anxiety is talk to others who are also experiencing the same thing. But climate action does seriously help. If you're making actions, if you're doing things to help the issue, it really does make you feel better about it, because if you're just sitting and dwelling in fear and anxiety, things can get worse for you. So I think I would like to open it up to everyone. If anyone has anything to say about that, I'd really like to provide that space.
That was really such a well-made point.
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
I said that was really such a well-made point. I think, we had this conversation last week, the panel discussion with what we can learn about mental health from Gen Z. And that's something that's very real for Gen Z is eco-anxiety. The thought that now the environment is so far gone that we can't fix it, and what am I going to do? And here's my impending doom. And I love the point that you made there about going out there and taking some action can help reduce that a little bit. That's fantastic.
I was going to type, but it may take a minute. My kids are 18 and 11, and they definitely have eco-anxiety. They are also focused on sustainability and the initiatives that we have to have, but they've realized the magnitude of the problem in front of us, that they get very discouraged. And they'll often ask me, Mom, are you such an optimist? Why do you think you can change it? And if we don't do it now for our children and our future generations, we never will. And I really would like to thank everyone on the stage that facilitated this conversation. And I'm so proud of EXP for being part of it. Just very happy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Stephanie, that is so brilliant. And I think that's part of the thing that I learned going from engineering to community organizing was, like, as an engineer, I thought doing cleanups was stupid, actually. Because, well, whatever, engineers. But, once I started doing some of those activities with people of all ages and just doing things together, that at the end of the day, you have big piles of stuff that you pulled out of the river. And, it doesn't solve everything, but it does show we adults care about your future. And I think it's really beautiful to hear that, Stephanie, because I think as a good parent, like quote unquote good parent, like we want nothing more than just for our kids to have a beautiful future. And so doing things that are together, are healing, that is another layer of fixing the problem, one thing, but doing things that are cathartic together is something that we can do immediately. And I'm so excited that this can be rippling out to those younger people that are saying, what the heck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
They are absolutely the activists. Like my Gen Z generation kids keep me tiptoeing around, not tiptoeing, like honestly confronting situations that I have not confronted as an adult or as a young adult, Yeah. They definitely keep me forefront thinking, and I appreciate them and their humility. They serve me on a daily basis. But at the same time, like, they are way more engaged than I was in 2000, or, like, it's definitely a pressing issue for them. And both of my kids, I think, really have some kind of anxiety of, what does our future hold? Why am I working so hard? Why am I doing this?
And I think, it's important as a parent too, that your kids see you stand up to people who would say that this isn't real or isn't a thing. When we do this, these conversations about this, when you participate in EXP CAN's workplace group, what you're doing in these conversations and talking is growing your knowledge base. And when we're growing, we're better at fighting against ignorance about the issue. I take this example. I have a cousin who's 20-something years younger than me, and they had never seen anyone stand up to my grandfather when he talked about climate stuff. He's an avid Fox News watcher who sits out in his den and watches Fox News all day, or girls softball for some reason because he's weird. And then every time I come home to Georgia to visit, he always brings the same clip to me. There's a clip that went viral many years ago of a senator from Hawaii coming out and throwing a snowball onto the floor in the House of Representatives, and that being his argument that global warming isn't real.
Not the fact that
ridiculous.
Hawaii got snow.
Laughable, right?
Sorry.
Right. And, it's one of these things where he would, show me that clip, and then that's it. I rest my case. This is, you're stupid for thinking global warming is real. And my cousin had never seen anyone stand up to my pawpaw and say, that's ridiculous, and here's why. Right. And you have to be that person who is knowledgeable enough to stand up against that sort of ignorance. It's the only way, because you never know who's looking. Look, I'm never going to convince my grandfather that he needs to go out and buy a Prius and reduce his emissions and all of this kind of thing, right? But my cousin who overheard the conversation, she absolutely is going to go do these things, right? Because I stood up.
Silence is complacency. I believe that 100 things that matter to us, we should not be silent about.
Stephanie, I just wanted to bring up a point that you had mentioned, and your kids at their age, they're experiencing great climate eco-anxiety. And something that we should also always remember too is the younger you are, the more impacted you're going to be by global heating and climate change. And I think that's part of the reason why there is such pushback, because the older generation, well, they might not be impacted as much by it, and they won't experience it firsthand. If they don't have kids, maybe they won't even care about it ever. But if they do have kids, then they and their kids, they'll be more likely to listen and engage with the topic.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I've studied sustainability since college. It's what I wrote my senior thesis on.
Awesome.
And it is definitely a passion project for me. Of course, I'm a realtor and I work for our Bob, so I'm part of our staff. But I'm still here today because this is such a huge topic, and I'm so proud of EXP for addressing this in any manner. This is huge. I am so proud.
Let's connect.
I'm so proud of our company. I've already reached out. I filled out the form.
Nice.
And we are good to go. I can be in two places at once, right?
That's wonderful.
Cody.
Love it.
She's somebody that shows up. So I do want to be conscious of people's time. We have run over time here. I want to plug a few things before we go. First, join EXP CAN. Search for EXP CAN in Workplace. Join the group. I'd also encourage you to join the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group for notifications of any events that we may be doing and another place where you can grow your sense of community. Our next event, we're going to be leading our first unconscious bias training. on August 2nd in the DEI auditorium. This training is stacked. This training is impactful. This training we put our blood, sweat, and tears into. Tell everybody you know to come to this thing. And I would also encourage you, our EXP Champions program is open. So come to the DEI group, look for the nomination form. If you know somebody that's passionate about anything, nominate them as a champion. And we'll see if it works out, and we'll get them the space that they need and the airtime that they need to tell people how they can be involved. Investor Agent Christina, I was talking about our unconscious bias training. Companies do it. I am confident in saying nobody does it like we do it. We are really confident in this training, and we think you're going to love it. So come join us on August 2nd in the DEI auditorium. You can get more information in the DEI workplace group. With that, we're going to sign off, and thank you so much to everybody for joining us today.
Thanks so much to Janae and Cody for coordinating